We're getting ready to start week 4 in the NBA. Let's take a look at the schedule. Let's take a look at injuries. Let's take a look at weekly leagues, streaming. You know how these shows goes. And so does Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and after I finish recording this show, I've got to go pick up a couple of jousting sticks that I just purchased. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Twitter, as always, at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also, check out LockedOnDaily.com to sign up for your favorite team's NBA newsletter. LockedOnDaily.com. It helps me out a lot, helps the show out a lot, and it's a lot of information. It's really, really good stuff coming to you 5 days a week in the old newsletter email inbox. Of course, you're double banging. I know you're double banging. That's what you live for, is to double bang these shows. Let's talk week 4. It is a different schedule. I would hope it is. It's a different schedule to what we have last week. We actually have games on all 7 days. Barely, mind you. Barely. And it's not as busy. Last week we had a crazy week, and it's still going on, obviously, where we had only 6 days worth of games, but still more games played than we had in most other weeks. This week it is a little bit easier to navigate, not quite as jam-packed, and let's just take a look at how it all is playing out at the moment in terms of where the games are scheduled. We've got on Monday 5 games, Tuesday 8 games, Wednesday 11 games, and then for some reason, and maybe there's just something I don't know here, why is there 1 game on Thursday? I know the NBA Cup is starting this week, but 1 game on Thursday between Dallas and Utah. What? Why? 1 game. That I don't get that. Like, surely there is something I'm just missing with this. Why is that a feature on a Thursday? Is there something that's like super important on Thursday the NBA is trying to avoid going up against? Like, what could it be? And it's not even like it's a late start in the day. There's like no NBA happening in the morning. What am I missing? Is it like college basketball opening night? No, that's already happened. What is it? I don't get it. Anyway, that's fine. So we go 5 games, 8 games, 11 games, 1 game. So there's a lot of streaming opportunities there. Wednesday, probably not. And we have 12 games Friday. It's annoying. 5 games Saturday and another busy Sunday. 2 back-to-back busy Sundays. The NBA usually avoids the busy Sundays early in the season, so they're not going up against the NFL, but that is 2 weeks in a row where we're going to have 10 and 11 games on Sundays. So that's how we're shaking things out at the moment in terms of the way that the games break down for the teams. We've got, what have we got? Yeah, 4 games for the majority of teams. Brooklyn, Chicago, Cleveland, Dallas, Detroit, Houston, the Clippers, Minnesota, New Orleans, the Knicks, Oklahoma City, the Phoenix Suns, Sacramento, San Antonio, Utah, and Washington. Now, if you want to, look, you can just screenshot this screen that I've got up here. Obviously, that's a way you can do it, or you can go to Basketball Monster. We've got our schedule analyzer and our schedule grid where you can see how the games all play out. We have 2 teams that play 2 games, Denver and Golden State. It's not as big of a disadvantage for them this week because we don't have like 25 teams playing 4 games. How many do we have, in fact? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We've got 17 teams that play 4 games, 11 teams playing 3 games, and then Denver and Golden State playing 2. So it's a big difference, obviously. But when you're looking at there's 11 teams with a 3, that does soften that blow somewhat. And it also, that relatively sort of even split between 4-game teams and 3-game teams means that your 3-game teams aren't as, or your 3-game players aren't going to be as a big of a disadvantage. So sometimes you can have your 24 teams playing 4 games and 6 teams playing 3, then those teams are at a big disadvantage. It's not as much this week. The Denver and Golden State one's bad, and the Denver schedule is outrageous. It's so bad. They don't play until Friday, which again, we'll cover off that part. We'll cover off that part in a second, but let's move in to talk about the quality games and how we attack streaming from a daily changes league perspective. There are 4 targeted streaming days, theoretically, or possibly maybe, on Wednesday with 11 games you could stream, and also maybe Sunday with 10 games on. Usually 9 or fewer is my cutoff, but this is all going to depend as well on the way that your league sets up. If you have a smaller active to bench ratio than a 10-3, so you've got more actives versus bench, then streaming on those higher volume days becomes easier. If your bench to starter ratio becomes larger, then you're looking at more, instead of 9 game days, it's an 8 game day cutoff or a 7 game day cutoff. And you're able to work this out. You can see it from just experience, but that's just generally the way I go. So when I do it again, quality game cutoff, if there are 9 NBA games on a day, that usually means you can stream if you run a standard 10-3 or 10-4 starter bench split. The more that bench expands, the quality game cutoff becomes smaller, down to 8 games or 7 games. The more that ratio expands, so you go 12 starters and 3 bench, for example, then your ability to stream becomes easier on 10 game days or 11 game days. Yep. So there are 2 teams only that have 3 quality games out of those 4 nights. And it's the 2 teams that randomly play that Thursday game, that one game on Thursday. It's Dallas and Utah. They're the only 2 teams with 3 quality games. There are 7 teams that play 2 quality games. The Pelicans, the Kings, and the Spurs, they are 3 4-game teams that have 2 quality games. So again, you know how we talk about this, and if you're an experienced person watching this show, or you've just been here for a while, and you know how we do all this, is that a 4-game week is not always built the same as a 3-game week, and a 4-game week is not necessarily better than a 3-game week when we're talking about looking at streaming values. Because, for example, like the Pelicans, the Kings, and the Spurs, that's great. They've got 2 quality games out of their 4. But Boston, Charlotte, Milwaukee, and Toronto, they are 3-game teams. But 2 of their 3 games are on the low volume days. So you compare them to, say, the Bulls, who play 4 games with only 1 low volume day. There's a lot of those 4-game teams. Minnesota, the Clippers, the Rockets, the Pistons, all those teams have 1 quality game. Right? So and then you compare that to like Golden State, for example, who plays 2 games and 1 quality game. So if you're streaming someone, you might get the same stream value out of a Warriors player by streaming them on the low volume Tuesday than you would by streaming a 4-game Rocket player who you might use once as well. So that seems crazy that a 2-game guy, a Pajemski, a Kuminga, a Hield, or I know Hield's already rostered, Jackson Davis, or whoever, Wiggins has dropped or whatever, you get 1 game out of them versus I'll stream in Isaiah Stewart, or I'll stream in Tim Hardaway, or I'll stream in, insert player name here from the Thunder, Aaron Wiggins, or someone like that. Even though they're 4 gamers, it's only 1 game that becomes usable. There are 3 teams this week who do not play a game on a low volume day. That is Indiana, Memphis, and Denver. Now, Indiana and Memphis are both 3-game teams, so and there are a lot of stream guys in Memphis, and a lot of those guys, like Scottie Pippen, and Santi Aldama, you would probably start on the high volume days anyway. But your value of like a Jake LaRavia, a Jalen Wells, Zach Edey is probably startable on some of those days, but not necessarily. Like, he got benched last game and still put up the same numbers that he does as a starter, but yeah, he was benched. So there's less upside in that sort of a role. With no quality games, like, would you use him on any of those days? That's debatable, right? And then Denver. I like the add of Peyton Watson because I think that Aaron Gordon thing is multiple weeks here. But you're probably not going to use Watson at all this week. They played 2 games. It's Friday, Sunday. Maybe you'd use him on Sunday, but the value in Peyton Watson is the games you just got this week, and then maybe you do use him Friday, Sunday. I don't know. But then it's what happens the weeks after. Indiana, it's like your Ben Mathurin you probably do use, but like if you're streaming in an Andrew Nembhard, or you're trying out an Obi Toppin or a Jarris Walker or somebody like that, you're probably not going to use them. And that's where having that knowledge of quality games really does come in, because that's you're trying to maximize the additional games you're able to get. So it's not just about, well, this team plays 3 or this team plays 4 or whatever. If you don't use them, well, guess what? It doesn't count. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Get ready to tackle all the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything that you need to place live bets on the NFL. It gives you the bets, of course. Why wouldn't it? That'd be a pretty dumb sportsbook if it didn't show you the bets, but it also shows you in the same place, in the one spot, all of the live stats, all of the live play-by-play, and so much more on that same page where you place the bet. So go to FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And don't forget to gamble responsibly. All right. So we've moved on from quality games. I think that's all the quality game stuff that we needed to talk about. Is it? Oh, no. Oh, it sort of is. We're going to move into the stream zone because that carries over from the schedule into the quality games, into being in the stream zone. I'm not sure how many of you guys have been in the stream zone before, but we are joining it right now. How do you stream to maximal advantage? And this is a week where you can't. And that sounds simplistic, and it is a little bit. When I say you can't, there are plenty of weeks where you go, well, if I use one ad here, I'll get 2 games, and I'll use another ad here, and I'll get 2 games, and then I've got 5 extra games through. I've used one roster spot, I've got 6 games, and I've used my ads perfectly. Doesn't work that way this week. There are no Monday, Tuesday back-to-backs to begin with, and they're both quality game days. The only stream options really are Dallas and Utah, because you can add a Dallas player and a Utah player on Tuesday. They play Tuesday, they play Thursday, they play Saturday. And that's it. So you can get 3 games, 1 roster spot, 1 move. You can choose anybody you want on Monday, flip that guy for a Dallas or Utah guy, and get 3 games in a row. And then you're left with 2 other ads. And you can either use those ads for see what happens on Sunday with 10 games on, or you use them for one-off moves, or you use them for longer-term stashes. Similar to last week where we were able to use a lot of our moves for stashing. So, yes, you can use that 1 roster spot. You can get 4 games out of it, which is not that many, right? Which it's not huge. You can use 2 moves to do that, a Monday ad and then a Dallas-Utah ad. But realistically, we're not really being able to bulk up our roster this week through super smart streaming and manipulation of waiver ads and roster spots. It's just not possible because there's that 1 game day in the middle, which makes it tough. If we had a nice little back-to-back setting on the Monday, Tuesday, it would have made things a little bit nicer. We could have gotten early back-to-back in there. We could have then gone through and see what happens on a Thursday through to Saturday. It's a little bit of a weird schedule again, so you're not gaining, which I don't mind. I hate the idea that fantasy is ruled by just spamming streams and waiver wire and games played. Hence why the way I set up the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Bowl is the way I set it up, to eliminate that being one of the key overriding skill sets, because that's not what I think should be deciding fantasy. Let's look at some more little quirks across the schedules, including little chunks of games and back-to-backs and weird things we just need to be aware of here. There are 3 teams that do not play across the weekend in Week 4. It's Golden State, it's Orlando, and it's Philadelphia. Remembering that Saturday is a stream day and Sunday is a 10-game day, which might be a stream day for you. So if you've got fringy players, Caleb Martin, Kyle Lowry, could be Goga Badadze, Mr. Black, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for some reason, a Kuminga, a Pajemski in Golden State. Well, they don't play the last 2 days of the week, and maybe that's something you move off of. There are 4 teams who do not play a game until Wednesday when there are 11 games on. One of them is Denver, and Denver doesn't play their first game until Friday, hence why I double asterisks them, because they don't play until Friday, which again is an insane schedule. But Indiana, the Lakers, and Memphis do not play until Wednesday, so they are off the first 2 days of the week, which are both lower volume days. So if you're holding fringy players on those teams, Jalen Wells, Jake LaRavia, the Lakers, Rui Hachimura is one of them. Indiana, it's probably not Ben Mathurin, but it's Obi Toppin, it's Jarris Walker. You might just want to move off those guys. There are 3 instances of 3-day breaks during the week. Charlotte does not play Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's going to make it a little bit harder to hold on to a Trey Man. I would, though. But it's holding a Grant Williams or a deeper league Tijan Salan or Musa Diabate after Diabate's big performance last time out. With 3 days off, that's really, really tough to do. Portland has 3 days off Thursday through Saturday. Not that there's huge amounts of fringe guys there, but like Scoot Henderson, Denny Avdia, Tamani Kamara, possibly Shaden Sharp. Honestly, I'm not. There's a lot of people who just think Sharp is going to be awesome for fantasy this year. I'm not one of them. He doesn't have the great fantasy category league game. He's not given a huge usage and minutes runway. He will ramp up. But remember, this was not a lower body injury for Shaden Sharp. This was a shoulder. So 20 minutes a night is not. It's weird. It's weird, so just be aware of that. Donovan Clingan. Rob Williams, who was the talk of the town yesterday, who had a huge game the other day. Like, is DeAndre Ayton going to play 18 minutes a night and Williams 17? I really doubt that. And is it worth holding a Rob Williams for 3 days off? Don't know. And then Denver doesn't play Monday through to Thursday. You don't hold like a Julian Strouder through that time, but Porter, Jokic, Murray, Brown, and probably Watson, I would. Westbrook, I would not. There are a few instances during the week where there is teams that play one game in 5 nights. On the Sunday to Thursday, so that's the Sunday of week 3 heading into Thursday, Denver and Atlanta play one game in 5 nights. So that's always like you look at your guys and you've got Atlanta players or Denver players and there are fringe guys there. Like that's just really tough to deal with. If you go Monday through Friday, Charlotte and Denver play one game. We've already talked about Denver's bad schedule. They're 4 days off. But Charlotte plays one game in 5 nights. They've got the 3-day break, Wednesday, Friday, we talked about. So they play, I think it's Tuesday they play. And that's all you get. Denver has one game in 5 nights, Tuesday to Saturday. And Golden State has one game in 5 nights starting Wednesday. They play on Tuesday, and then it's one game the rest of the week. And that's where you make the decisions on Kuminga and Pajemski and maybe Wiggins, but definitely Jackson Davis and those sort of players. That's where you start to make those calls. If we look at the 3-game in 4-night runs, there are a few of these, obviously, through the week, and this is a way we can sort of maximize what we do. Sunday of week 3 into Wednesday, you can see those names: Boston, Detroit, Houston, Milwaukee, Minnesota, New York, Oklahoma City, Orlando, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Portland, Sacramento, Washington. Now, the Sunday-Wednesday combo is bookended by 11-game days. Sunday's an 11-gamer, Wednesday's an 11-gamer. So that's a little bit harder to make sure that you've got those options, but this is a big concentration of games, as you can tell, between Sunday to Wednesday. And then it cools off. Between Tuesday to Friday, it's only 6 teams: Detroit, Minnesota, New York, Orlando, Philadelphia, and Phoenix. Between Wednesday and Saturday, it is 4 teams: the Lakers, New Orleans, Sacramento, and San Antonio. And to end the week, between Thursday and Sunday, the only teams who have 3 games in 4 nights are Dallas and Utah. That's it. Dallas and Utah, remember those 2 team names. Not that there's many great streamers, but Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton, Keontae George, PJ Washington, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, Najee Marshall all become way more interesting. John Collins, Cody Williams for deeper leagues, like way more interesting because they have that schedule advantage. If we're talking 4 games in 6 nights, again, Sunday from week 3 to Friday of week 4, there's a lot of teams that do it. Detroit, Houston, Minnesota, New York, Oklahoma City, Orlando, Philadelphia, Phoenix, Sacramento, Washington. If we're looking Monday through Saturday, the first 6 days of week 4 is 3 teams. Their 4-game week is done by Saturday: New Orleans, Sacramento, and San Antonio. And then if we wait for the Tuesday, Sunday, these are a bunch of other 4-game teams whose 4-game week is over or doesn't start until Tuesday. And that's Dallas, Detroit, Minnesota, New York, Phoenix, and Utah. There are 4 instances of teams playing 5 games in 7 nights. And you know that when we look at the schedule and the NBA schedule comes out, we look at which teams have 5-game weeks. Because we really love structure and ordinality and what's a week? If a team plays 5 games in 1 week of fantasy, that's great. And the 2 teams that do that are Brooklyn and Washington, I believe, in like week whatever, sometime in March. Week numbers become blurry and confusing because of the way that sites handle it. So I don't want to give you an exact week number. It's in March, right? There's 2 teams that play 5-game weeks, but all sprinkled throughout the season, there are plenty of teams who play 5 games in 7 nights, which of course is a week. But because it doesn't start on Monday, we don't look at it as a week as a general rule. So this week, for example, starting Sunday of week 3 through to Saturday of week 4, the Kings play 5 games in 7 nights. So be aware of tiredness. Be aware of bulk run of guys. So like Malik Monk, who it's hard to find the minutes sometimes. Keon Ellis, Kevin Huerter, 5 games, 7 nights. And then Tuesday of week 4, heading into Monday of week 5, Detroit, New York, and Phoenix have a 5-game stretch. Detroit, New York, and Phoenix have 5 games, 7 nights starting on Tuesday, which of course, is overload period of a schedule. We've also got a bunch of teams that have 5 games in 8 nights. So we'll take a look at where those guys land. That is Sunday of week 3 through to the end of week 4. Dallas, Detroit, Houston, Minnesota, New York, Oklahoma City, Phoenix, Sacramento, and Washington. And then if we start Monday of week 4 into Monday of week 5, it's Chicago, it's Detroit. You'll notice Detroit's name popping up a lot there. Houston popping up a lot. Clippers, New York popping up a lot. Phoenix popping up a lot, Sacramento and Washington. Washington's had a very light schedule to begin the season, and now things start to kick into gear with more games for the old Wizards. Let's look at where the back-to-back slide, remembering, check your own schedule. I don't know whether you'll have ability to stream or add on certain days, but from Sunday of week 3, which we're going to do the daily streaming show for Sunday coming up after this, when we're looking at who do I add on Sunday to win my week, if there's a close decision, give the tiebreaker to the team that plays Sunday and Monday, because then that gives you an extra game to begin week 4 without wasting an ad. It's Houston, it's Oklahoma City, it's Sacramento, and it's Washington. All right, so that's an additional bonus there. There are no Monday, Tuesday back-to-backs. Tuesday, Wednesday, there are a lot. I don't know whether you'll be able to utilize it on Wednesday, but Boston, Detroit, Milwaukee, Minnesota, New York, Orlando, Philadelphia, Phoenix, and Portland. Now, this is important because there's 2 parts of that Tuesday, Wednesday that's important. Boston. So Al Horford will sit a game. Meaning, I think we're going to get a lot of Nemesh Keita. We're all going to have all-you-can-eat pastel de natas, I think, even though they started Xavier Tillman last game. He played 6 minutes and was done. I think we're going to get a lot of Nemesh Keita. The other one is Philadelphia. Because on Tuesday, Joel Embiid plays his first game of the season. And then on Wednesday, he sits his first game of the season. That's not true. He's sat every other game so far. But that's going to happen. It's good that he's playing on the Tuesday, and then on Wednesday when there are more games on, you're going to have more options on your bench to replace him. But they're important ones. If we look at a pseudo back-to-back, which is what we talked about in the stream zone, Tuesday with 8 games, Thursday with 1, it's Dallas and Utah, the only 2 teams that do that. There are no Thursday, Friday back-to-backs, but there are Friday, Saturday. Friday's got 12 games. That makes it really hard to stream. So it's the Lakers, it's New Orleans, it's Sacramento, it's San Antonio, and Toronto who have got that combination of games. And then, like we've already talked about, Thursday to Saturday, it's only 2 teams that do it because there's only 2 teams that play on Thursday, and it's Dallas and Utah, and they play both Thursday and Saturday. And then the weekend back-to-back, which is Saturday and Sunday, it's Chicago, Dallas, and Utah. So that Dallas-Utah schedule is really ridiculous. Tuesday, low-volume day. Thursday, low-volume day with only 1 game on. Saturday, low-volume day, and then a weekend back-to-back. An unbelievable schedule. So when you're prioritizing teams, and Sunday with 10 games on is maybe not technically a stream day, but it very easily could be. That gives you a real opportunity to use some value there of a George, a Sexton, a Clarkson, a Williams, a Collins, a Marshall, a Washington, a Lively, a Gafford, whoever it may be in that particular time period. Today's episode is brought to you by the Game Time app. Game Time, one of the biggest legendary innovators in the ticket business. That's what they're at. And the new thing they've got is Game Time Picks. It makes getting tickets to see your favorite sports team play live even easier. It filters out the fluffy old Game Time Picks to show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. Why would you want to do that when I've got my algorithmically based mate doing it for me? That's what Game Time Picks is. Think of it like that. Think of it as your AI friend showing you the good tickets. You know, you got that friend that goes, "Man, I got a good deal for you." And most of the time you go, "Bro, it's because you stole it." But not with Game Time Picks. That is your AI mate who's got legitimate deals for you and shows them to you, and you can actually believe what they're saying, which is unbelievable. There are so many different options available. There's actually there's a tournament coming up here at Lone Depot Park. So if you were in Lone Depot Park, now from memory, that is Miami. That's where the Marlins play, pretty sure. There is I'm going to mispronounce this, the Choque de Gigantes between Venezuela, Puerto Rico, and Dominican Republic. What is that tournament? I need to look that up. Is that baseball? No, it's got to be football, doesn't it? Anyway, we'll look that up. Anyway, Game Time, you can get tickets to the Choque de Gigantes. Oh, it is baseball. Absolute W. Oh, I got to tell my son about this. Winter baseball tournament. Anyway, you can get tickets to that through Game Time Picks. Thanks, Game Time Picks, for alerting me to this. You've got the all-in pricing, which you can toggle on in the app as well. You've got seat views. You've got the lowest price guarantee. It is all there. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets for their Choque de Gigantes, out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Apologies, my Spanish accent and pronunciation isn't quite there. I'm more of a French speaker, to be honest. Let's have a look at some injury updates. Guess what? There's a lot of them. Let's talk about what we know and who is not going to be available. With all guesses being correct, and who's not going to be available for this week. And the big one that we just heard is Zion Williamson. Now, if you don't want to hear a man with no hair in Australia talk about hamstring injuries. Fast forward at about 90 seconds. Done it? Cool. What is wrong with the NBA? Zion Williamson has been complaining of thigh soreness since about game 2. He had a hamstring injury which kept him out of the playoffs last year. He had a serious hamstring injury which kept him out for a long time, which they mismanaged back 2 years ago. So he complains of thigh soreness and hamstring soreness again, and they just keep playing him through it. And guess what? He has now strained his hamstring, and he is going to be out. And I hope they do not rush him back. This is a 3-week minimum injury. Teams will never learn. I do not understand why they will not learn. Now, Trey Murphy's been out for a long time. He's coming back. But at least they treated this hamstring correctly. And it looks like they might be doing Tyrese Maxey's hamstring correctly as well. But this is insanity. Tyrese Halliburton, has that screwed his entire career up, honestly? He's never been the same since he hurt his hamstring. And now he's dealing with a back issue, which can often be related to the hamstring as well. Ridiculous. So Zion is now out. He will not play week 4. I'm telling you, he won't play week 5. He won't play week 6. I think he's out for a month here minimum. And with Zion and the hamstring, they have screwed it up so many times. And this is one of those things I talked about in the offseason with Kawhi and Embiid. Repeated injuries to the same body part. Joints are more so than soft tissue. But a person with a chronic hamstring injury is something that takes a long time to be able to get better. Zion, I am out on complete. I drafted Zion in quite a few teams this season. But another hamstring injury that was mismanaged again. Out. Done. Over. Finished with Zion now from fantasy. That is too many hamstring injuries that continue to be mismanaged. The Pelicans will also be without this week CJ McCollum, DeJounte Murray, Herb Jones, and Jordan Hawkins. Trey Murphy is returning, but make sure you get BJ. Boston is a guy you need to go and add. He's going to have to get a lot of shots. He's playing a lot of minutes. Yes, Trey Murphy will return. So it'll be Murphy, Boston, Ingram, and Alvarado starting. Alvarado clearly a must roster too. The other one to look at is Jeremiah Robinson-Earl. They might start him. I don't know how they want to use. Like, where do they view Murphy and Ingram as a 2-3 or a 3-4 combo? That'll depend on, so Robinson-Earl versus Boston. But it doesn't matter. There's enough minutes for these guys to go around because nobody is healthy on this squad. So you do want Alvarado. You do want BJ. You do want Murphy, obviously, if he was dropped. And Robinson-Earl probably sits a little bit below that, looking at how the schedule plays out. But obviously insanity again with the Pelicans and Zion. And I'm not absolving Zion of blame here. I'm not sure does he follow all the rehab stuff correctly? Is he honest about the hamstring injury? I don't know. But it is insane the way that this is being treated. Scotty Barnes will be out again. Kelly Olynyk will be out again for the Raptors. And in Charlotte, Mark Williams, I don't expect that he returns. Who knows? Honestly, I'm done with him as well. I'm not, because it's a different injury. I'm done with how slow he takes to heal. And I'm done suggesting that he's coming back. So Mark Williams, BDNR, Nick Richards, Miles Bridges will all be out this week in Memphis. I'm only sort of talking about the guys who are relevant around standard leagues here. Desmond Bane and Marcus Smart won't play this week. Bogdan Bogdanovic will be out. Tyrese Maxey is going to be out. Jeremy Sohan is going to be out. Paolo Banchero will be out. Kristaps Porzingis, Aaron Gordon, Kyle Kuzma and Malcolm Brogdon. Kuzma hasn't officially been announced, but soft tissue groin injury, almost certainly he'll be out. Brogdon, I'm not expecting back. Winter Soldier Max Strus will be out. Kawhi Leonard, Chris Middleton, another one of those ones where I'm just not going to assume that he's coming back. They refuse to give any sort of information. They're incredibly vague about what happens. This might be the third year in a row that Middleton has not been ready to start the season. With different injuries, mind you. Wrist, knee, and ankles now. I don't think that he's going to be there, which again is completely frustrating given the way that they talk about it and they frame it in the offseason. I don't think Aaron Nesmith is going to be available to play. Mitchell Robinson won't be there for New York. Isaiah Hartenstein is going to be out for the Thunder, and I don't think that we're seeing Jared Vanderbilt bar this week, or honestly, anytime soon. There are a bunch of injuries that we're uncertain about at this stage. Jalen Duren missed the last game with an ankle sprain. It doesn't appear like it's going to be serious, but don't be shocked if he misses a game or two. Zach LaVine's missed a few in a row with a groin problem. I would say that it's like 80% that he's available week 4, but I'm not sure. Jimmy Butler rolled his ankle. You'd be shocked to know that Jimmy Butler, who turned up to Media Day being completely serious, completely normal hair, saying that he's not, it's all business, it's all serious. You know, many people ascribe that to contract year Jimmy. He's taken the criticism to heart. He's going to put up great numbers. This is it. We're all in now. This is contract year Jimmy, who's been bad, and now he's hurt again. What a shock that a 35-year-old man doesn't actually have control over his body staying healthy, and the only reason he got hurt in the past was because he wasn't playing for a contract. I never could have seen that coming. Yesterday, I fell down on my knees in a Walmart when I heard the news. Unbelievable. Jaylen Brown, I would hope that he's coming back in week 4, but they don't really need him that much, so we'll see, and they're obviously being extremely cautious. Keontae George dealing with a foot problem. We want him back because of this big schedule bonus. Now, he could shoot 3 of 29 across those games, but we still want him there. Paul Washington Jr., another guy that we really need back because those games are super important for Dallas in terms of our fantasy value, and same with Derek Lively, but I don't know that they're going to be available. I assume that they are, but I don't know. Trey Murphy looks like he's coming back over the weekend, so I assume that he is fine, ready to go. Manuel Quickly also looks like his return will be on the weekend. They've got a weekend back-to-back, the Raptors, so I suspect he sits one of those, but it looks like it'll be full go. Just watch the minutes, I guess. Wendell Carter Jr. is out on Sunday again. I'm expecting that he misses some of the time in week 4, but I don't know that for sure. And same with DeAndre Hunter's injury management, which is clearly not management. He's just injured, and they won't tell us anything about that. So I'm going to guess that Hunter is out for the majority of that week. I'll also assume that Ja Morant with a hip/hamstring, which they reclassified from hamstring, just say it's a hamstring, and he's out. I think that if they were smart, and they're not always, if they were smart, he wouldn't play all week, but I think there's a chance that Morant is able to go at some point. I also don't know any status here on Asar Thompson. I really don't think that Asar Thompson is going to be available and ready to go, but we haven't heard anything. There's an outside chance that Bruce Brown is able to return and make his season debut, which is obviously the incorrect way of saying it, this week. Week 4. Doubt it, though. Who knows? Let's talk weekly leagues. Let's take a look at some guys who are available in like over 50% of Yahoo leagues, who, if you added them, I think you would start them this week. And we'll go to Jose Alvarado. Very easy one there in New Orleans with all the injuries. We can also go to his teammate BJ Boston, who's definitely going to be worth a look and would be startable. I think Keyshawn George and Bob Carrington. Carrington did pop up just on the injury report with a wrist issue, but I think that just happened now. I think we're going to be okay with him. Tari Eason's still available everywhere. He just got to be rostered, and I think his teammate Jabari Smith is probably not a must-roster guy at this point. And then Karis LeVert, it's like 29% rostered on Yahoo. He's putting up pretty strong numbers. The shooting is going to drop off for him, but with a 4-game week on, LeVert is a very, very strong ad, I think. In terms of the guys who, when we're looking at 2-game weeks, Golden State and Denver, the only players that you would start in a weekly league, in a standard sort of weekly league, Nikola Jokic and Steph Curry. You don't start Jamal Murray. You don't start Michael Porter Jr. You don't start Draymond Green. This is one of the most obvious things I believe that you will ever see. One thing to watch also for next week, if Keontae George is out with a foot injury, the Jazz today are starting rookie Isaiah Collier. Now, I think he could be an absolute disaster with bad free throws, bad field goals, but I think he's a good assist guy. He might be able to bully some decent usage, but with the 3 games, the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday quality game run, and then the Sunday back-to-back for Utah, that's got to be on your radar. Because if George misses all of next week, and I don't know that he will, but if he does, then you are talking about 4 games, starting point guard, 3 quality games, Isaiah Collier, and no one else, and no other team having that ability. So Collier, and then I would have Sexton and Clarkson over him, but the fact that he is starting is really over Pat Mills, who obviously I don't know why he is playing any minutes at all. Patty Mills, everyone in Australia loves his contribution to the Boomers, but he hasn't been an NBA quality player for 3 years. Don't know why he's getting those minutes, but Collier is back now. We got garbage time last game, but straight into a starter. We're watching that closely, and that schedule almost makes you go, do I take that risk? Now, he might play 10 minutes a night. He might play 14 minutes a night if Keontae's back, but honestly, 14 minutes a night across 3 quality games, when there are plenty of players like, let's say, an Andrew Nembhard in Indiana who have 0 quality games, that's actually better. Like an Isaiah Collier, as a backup, is almost better than using an Obi Toppin or an Andrew Nembhard for this week when you wouldn't use them. And that's the vagaries. That's some of the, I hate saying the word expert in fantasy because it's such a stupid term, right? But it's when you play fantasy for a period of time, you understand that, because otherwise your idea would just be like, well, of course, this guy's better. This guy's playing more minutes. But the idea of real minutes versus fantasy usable minutes is a different story. And I think sometimes that can be a little bit hard to get your head around. It's not that hard for you to get your head around giving this video a thumbs up, though. I'd be all for it. In fact, just under the video that you can just see it, just bang it right there. And if you're on audio, I love you listening on audio too. I want you all of you to listen on audio as well. If you're on Spotify, give it a 5-star and leave a review. And you can actually leave comments there now as well. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.